Hello, my friends. My name is Gerdes. Here are the three big stories for today, and then I'll tell you at the end what to look forward to next week. So the first big story is that Viktor Orban was meeting with Putin in Russia. Now, day before, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban was meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv. And he said the aim of the Hungarian presidency is to contribute to the solution of the challenges facing the European Union. My first trip, therefore, led to Kyiv. And I was like, something doesn't seem right, but I'm not going to say anything bad about him. I'm just going to hold my judgment until we find out what happens. Well, we found out what happened. He went to go visit with Putin today, and we all know that he's chummy with Putin. Putin underlined that Orban came to visit as chair of the EU Council, but he didn't really because he can't really. Baltic leaders are going nuts. Baltic leaders have strongly criticized the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban's visit to Moscow, calling it a blow to EU unity and trust in Hungary's EU Council presidency. Now, Orban's going to be the president of the EU Council for the next 6 months until December 31st, and in this capacity is how he's framing how he went, but he doesn't really have the power to do that. Will it matter? Probably not. Hungarian Prime Minister, this is the Institute for the Study of War saying this, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban likely used his unannounced visit to Kyiv on July 2nd to posture himself as a peacemaker following Hungary's accession to the European Union Council presidency on July 1st. But Orban's efforts are very unlikely to bring about any robust peace in Ukraine. Nonetheless, for politics, for the optics, it was a stunning move for Orban to do from his perspective, for him to go do these two things, and he's trying to make peace. And okay, well, RT is making some hay of this. Orban defies EU officials with Putin meeting. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban made a surprise visit to Russia on Friday. His trip came days after he traveled to Kyiv to urge Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky to consider an immediate ceasefire with Moscow and begin peace talks. Remember, he came to Kyiv to talk about an immediate ceasefire and then peace talks, right? And I was like, I don't think that's going to work out so well. Orban's visit to Russia for talks has sparked sharp criticism from senior bloc officials. Orban's meeting with Vladimir Zelensky earlier this week was not bad, an unnamed Ukrainian official told Politico. Okay, but this really isn't his business or his job. So let me read a little bit more about it and I'll explain what I mean in just a moment. Hungary's Orban meets Putin in Russia, defying EU leaders. At a press conference after their meeting, Putin said on Friday that the talks were frank and useful, that they discussed the situation in Ukraine. However, the Russian leader reiterated that Moscow's peace proposals should be key to any negotiations. So Moscow's proposal is, all that land that I say that I captured, I get to keep, and you don't get to join NATO. So that's pretty much it, and then you can have peace. We took the first step to restore dialogue, Orban said, adding that points of view remain far from each other in Kyiv and Moscow. Well, yeah, of course they did. I understand that this time you have come not just as our long-standing partner, but as president of the council, Putin told Orban, but that's emphatically not true. European Council President Charles Michel responded to reports about Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban's planned visit to Russia. Michel emphasized that Hungary, currently holding the rotating presidency of the EU Council, does not have a mandate to engage with Russia on behalf of the EU. In fact, it gets even worse. Europe's top diplomat, Joseph Borrell, says that the visit to Moscow of the Prime Minister of Hungary, which is now serving the rotating presidency of the European Council, Viktor Orban, takes place solely within the framework of bilateral relations, that's between Hungary and Russia, and cannot represent the position of the European Union. I mapped out the European Union the other day, and it's kind of hard to follow. But yeah, I mean, you can't be speaking multiple different. You have to speak with one voice, right? Prime Minister Viktor Orban's visit to Moscow takes place exclusively in the framework of bilateral relations between Hungary and Russia. Prime Minister Orban has not received any mandate from the EU Council to visit Moscow. Borrell recalled that the EU's position on Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine is reflected in many conclusions of the European Council. That position excludes official contact between EU and President Putin. The Hungarian Prime Minister is thus not representing the EU in any form, the High Representative said. At the same time, he stated that Hungary is currently an EU member state and serves as the rotating chairman of the Council until December 31st. That does not entail any external representation of the Union, which is the responsibility of the President of the European Council as head of state. Okay, so that's where we are. He went there, but he's not really representing Europe, although Putin's acting like he is. Okay, let's turn our attention to what happened in Britain. So Britain has a new prime minister as of last night. Britain's new prime minister, Starmer, is speaking. He's visited Zelensky before. He's brought his shadow government, the people that will become his foreign ambassadors and things along those lines, with him to visit in Kyiv. Speaking after he visited Zelensky, he said there has to be justice in The Hague and there has to be proper reparation in the rebuilding of Ukraine. I don't think there will be any changes at all in the United Kingdom's policy toward Ukraine. And I spent an hour talking to Jonathan Pierce, who is British, about exactly what happened, a great breakdown of both the British system and how it will affect Ukraine moving forward. And I don't see there's going to be a lot of changes. But if you want to understand the British system, this was a great conversation. Okay, a little bit more about Starmer. Ukraine and the United Kingdom have been working and will continue to be reliable allies through thick and thin, Zelensky wrote on X after this election. We will continue to defend and advance our common values of life, freedom, and a rules-based international order. He wished Starmer well in solidifying the UK's leadership on the world stage. I look forward to working closely together and strengthening the Ukraine-UK partnership and restoring international peace and security, Zelensky posted on Twitter. Okay, third big story. Now we're looking at what's going on in the United States. And so I'm a Republican. I'm not going to talk smack about Joe Biden because that's not going to help anything. But Democrats are apparently pretty worried, at least behind the scenes, according to high-ranking Democrats. CNN commentator and former Obama administration official Van Jones says Democrats are discussing how to replace Biden, not whether they should replace Biden. I understand people want to, defend him and protect him and give him the space and the dignity to make his own choice, but there's a big conversation happening right now about how this happens, not whether. Now, I'm not sure who they would replace him with, but whoever it is, I hope will still be stalwartly defending Ukraine. And my guess is because the percentage of the population within the Democrat sphere that is pro-Ukraine is so high, I don't think that we'll get somebody who doesn't. Behind the scenes, it's full-scale panic. People are passing around legal memos, PDFs are flying back and forth on WhatsApp, trying to figure out what are the options. How can you replace Biden? How do you get him to do it in a way where he feels respected as he should be respected? But that's pretty significant that that's going around. It may happen, it may not happen. If Biden were to voluntarily step down, all of his delegates are released and then they get to choose at the convention who it is. But I don't know that it will happen. I'm just telling you from what I'm reading, there seems to be a very panicky Democrat Party at this point. Okay, here's what to look forward to next week. The Prime Minister of India will be visiting Russia. He'll be talking about Indians that have been kind of tricked into service in Russia. He'll be talking about increasing economic relations, but I don't think much more will come of it, but we'll keep our eye on it. But the big issue next week will be the NATO summit, and NATO is not going to be welcoming Ukraine into NATO, and that wasn't my case when I made that video about NATO last week, but they should be creating the path and making it very clear, here are the exact things you need to do so that once you pass this bar and the war is over, you're in. And I don't think they're going to really do that in the meaningful way that they need to. They're going to keep kind of luring them along, and it's very sad to watch. Okay, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., I'll be doing a special live stream for my patrons just to say thank you to my patrons. So I put that announcement out on Patreon. I also put that announcement out for YouTube members, because if you're a YouTube member, I do the exact same thing for you as if you're a patron. So I hope to see you then. 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is 4 p.m. in Ukraine time, or Kyiv time, and it's about 2 p.m. I think in London time. And if you're somewhere else, I'm I'm sorry, I can't just do all the worlds, whatever. But okay, I hope to see you there. And because it's a smaller crowd, hope to be able to answer whatever questions for you all. And thank you for supporting me this time. Okay. Last thing, so the little dogs aren't actually in the CIA, but the Russians think that they are. Okay. This is just a fun meme about NAFO, and thank you all for being with me up to this point. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes. Thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine. Hope to see patrons and members tomorrow at 9 a.m.